William Adams stands as one of the most fascinating figures in world history and one of the most influential and crucial figures in the development of Western relationships with Japan. William Adams, also referred to as Mura Anjin, is a figure whose life has intrigued historians and scholars for centuries now. And thanks to the TV series Shogun and the character John Blackthorne, who was heavily inspired by William Adams, interest in this enigmatic sailor's life and death is at an all-time high. Rising from humble beginnings as an English navigator, Adams would go on to become a trusted advisor to Tokugawa Ieyasu, the shogun of Japan. However, while his life was defined by adventure, diplomacy, and cultural transformation, his death marked the end of an extraordinary journey that bridged two vastly different worlds together. William Adams would pass away in 1620 far away from his native England, leaving behind a legacy as the first Western samurai and one of the most important figures in the development of Japan's global trade and diplomacy endeavors. But what were the circumstances that surrounded the final days of William Adams? How did a man who rose from foreign exile to trusted samurai meet his ultimate fate? By examining contemporary historical records and personal letters, we will uncover the events leading to Adams' death and reflect on how his remarkable story came to its everlasting conclusion. But before we begin, don't forget, if you want to find out more about the deaths of some of history's greatest figures, then subscribe to my channel Historical Exit. Before we can begin discussing the final days and ultimate fate of William Adams, it is first necessary to have a basic understanding of how this English navigator rose from humble beginnings to becoming one of the most remarkable foreign figures in Japanese history. William Adams was born in Gillingham, England in the year 1564, and he would begin his naval career as a shipwright and sailor, and with a natural aptitude for navigating ships and the seas, he would eventually become one of the most predominant navigators for the Dutch East India Company. And in the year 1600, Adams would set forth on the Dutch vessel De Lefte to begin a voyage to the shores of Japan. However, the journey would be long and perilous, fraught with many struggles and obstacles such as fierce storms, unfavorable winds, resulting in many passengers on board the De Lefte not surviving this precarious journey. Eventually, William Adams and what remained of his crew would arrive in Japan, half-starved, weakened, and demoralized. And upon landing on Japanese shores, the Dutch sailors would be immediately detained by the local authorities. Luckily though, it would eventually come to light that the Dutch sailors had arrived there on a trade mission, and the exceptional knowledge and skill Adams possessed in the art of shipbuilding, navigation, and mathematics would quickly catch the attention of Tokugawa Ieyasu, the fearsome and powerful shogun of Japan. Adams would go on to become a loyal retainer of Tokugawa Ieyasu for many decades, and he would eventually become one of Ieyasu's most trusted advisors. And perhaps due to the high degree of prestige and respect he had attained in Japan, Adams would never again return to England, living out his days in service to the shogunate. But how exactly did this extraordinary foreign sailor and Japanese nobleman meet his end? And what was the cause of his passing? To answer this question, we will be considering the work of Richard Cox, an English trader and the head of the English East India Company's factory in Japan. Furthermore, we will also be considering the work of modern historians such as Richard Cohen and C.R. Boxer to ascertain the most probable cause of death for William Adams, the most popular Westerner in Japanese history. There is only one singular contemporary historical document that still exists, which makes reference to the death of William Adams, which occurred on May 16 in the year 1620 when Adams would pass away at the age of 55. And the name of this historical text is Richard Cox's Diary, which provides two statements in regard to the passing of William Adams. The first being, "I cannot but be sorrowful for the loss of my good friend Captain William Adams, he having been sick ever since his return from his last voyage to see him, and now departed this present life the 16th of this month." This quote provides some important details about the manner of William Adams' passing. Firstly, that his cause of death was from an unspecified illness which he may have contracted on a voyage to Siam, which is modern-day Thailand. Additionally, this passage also highlights that William Adams passed on the 16th of May in the year 1620. A second passage from the diary of Richard Cox highlights the impact that William Adams' death had on Japanese society, with Richard Cox lamenting that William Adams the Englishman is dead. He was a man of great account with the Emperor of Japan, and his death is much lamented by the Japanese. This passage highlights that William Adams' death was an event which had a widespread impact across all of Japan, and if one is familiar with Japanese trade history, then they will also know that after this point, Japan would close its borders to the majority of Western traders for many centuries. Nonetheless, our only primary source for the death of William Adams highlights that illness was the cause of death for this English navigator, and if one takes into consideration the advanced age of Adams during this time, the discourse of death by illness does seem highly probable and pretty much irrefutable in my opinion. And this discourse of a natural passing for William Adams is one that is supported by the majority of modern historians, with C.R. Boxer stating in his work The Samurai and the Shipbuilder that the death of William Adams in 1620 marked the end of an era. Having spent over 2 decades in Japan, Adams was not only a trusted advisor to the shogun, but had become a symbol of the possible collaboration between East and West. His loss was keenly felt by both the English and the Japanese, but the Tokugawa government, despite its affection for him, had already turned its attention elsewhere. This viewpoint is also further supported by Richard Cohen in his work The Englishman Who Went to Japan, William Adams and the Tokugawa Shogunate, where he states that by the time of William Adams' death, he had lived a full life in Japan, seen as a valued counselor and even family man. His death in 1620 was an event marked by solemn ceremonies in the court. Again, the viewpoint that the death of William Adams occurring in 1620 in an unsuspicious manner is reaffirmed by both these modern historians through analysis of many primary and secondary resources, and both historians also imply that the passing of William Adams had a large impact across not only Japanese society but also across the European world as well. Therefore, based on the evidence provided within contemporary sources and the research conducted by modern historians, we can ascertain as an absolute fact that William Adams passed away from natural causes at the age of 55 on May 16 in the year 1620. So I really hope you enjoyed this video and found it to be educational and engaging. And if you did enjoy it, please do like and share this video with others. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to my channel Historical Exit so you can find out more about the deaths of some of history's greatest figures. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day. Bye.